introduce myself. My name is Erwin Werkman, and I work for a company called Aviva Solution as an e-commerce consultant. Aviva is based in the Netherlands, in a small village called Koudekerk aan de Rijn, right in the middle between Amsterdam, Utrecht, The Hague and Rotterdam. And here you can see our office next to the river. We're a full service agency specializing in solutions based on Microsoft technology. And we have been using Commerce Server in its various forms since 2000. Now, some of you may not know the history of the Commerce Server product, because although it is new to the Sitecore platform, it already has quite a long history. This history has also influenced the architecture of the product. And to get a little bit of context on the product, I'm going to give you a short history of the product. It all begins in 2000, when Microsoft brings out Commerce Server 2000. Now, Commerce Server 2000 is actually based on another Microsoft product called Site Server Commerce Edition. At the time, there was no .NET or C#. We did everything in what we called classic ASP, which at the time we just called ASP or Active Server Pages. And we created our website in a language called VBScript. And this was also the time when everything was about COM+, which was Microsoft Component Object Model. Now, Commerce Server was heavily based on these technologies, and it continued to be so until very recently. In 2002, Microsoft released, you guessed it, Commerce Server 2002. Now, 2002 was also the year when Microsoft introduced the .NET framework and ASP.NET. Together with the .NET, Microsoft introduced a number of .NET Server products, of which Commerce Server had the honor to be one of the first .NET products. At the time, that meant there was a native .NET API. Unfortunately, this API didn't cover all the things the COM API could do. So in practice, you were still calling COM methods from .NET. But still, we were happy because we didn't have to use classic ASP anymore and could implement everything in C# and ASP.NET. The next version took until 2007 to be released. Now, the 2007 version brought us a complete .NET API, but under the cover there was still a COM API available. In ASP.NET you didn't really have to use the COM parts, but in some extensibility points you still had to deal with COM+. But most of it was a native .NET API. 2009, Microsoft released Commerce Server 2009. A major change in this version was the introduction of a new API, which made it possible to create real 3-tier applications. And up till then, the Commerce Server was a 2-tier product, basically an API that talks to the database. There was another big difference in the 2009 release, in that it was no longer developed by Microsoft itself, but Microsoft had outsourced development to a Canadian company called Cactus Commerce. In 2011, Cactus Commerce was acquired by Ascentium, and Ascentium bought the rights to Commerce Server from Microsoft in that same year. In 2012, Ascentium split off the Commerce Server division and it was rebranded as CommerceServer.net. Within all this, they had also had time to release a new version of Commerce Server, which was called Commerce Server 2009 R2. In 2014, we finally see Sitecore becoming part of our later history, when in late 2013, Sitecore acquires CommerceServer.net. Sitecore is going to integrate Commerce Server in their platform, but Commerce Server will also remain a separate product, at least for the time being. 2014 sees the release of Commerce Server and the start of integration into Sitecore, and that's where we are now. As you can see, a lot has happened to Commerce Server, and with Sitecore acquiring Commerce Server, a lot is still going to happen. This is something you have to keep in mind when you take a look at Commerce Server. As you will see, when you explore the product now, it has a legacy. And at some point it is already integrated with Sitecore, at others it's not. Sometimes you can do everything from the Sitecore interface, and at other times you will have to revert to a WinForms application. Now this will all change in the coming years as it gets more and more integrated in the Sitecore platform. So after this brief introduction, let's have a look at today's subject, which is the catalog system. Now in this webinar, if you look to your right, you should see a question box where you can enter questions, and at the end of the webinar we'll try to answer some of the questions. This presentation is the first in a 4-part series where we discuss the different parts of Commerce Server. Now Commerce Server consists of 4 main systems. The catalog system, which is used to store product information. The profile system, which is used to store information on customers and potential customers. The transaction system, which is all about baskets and orders. And the marketing and discount system, where marketeers can define their discount campaigns. In each part, we will discuss the architecture, terminology, and tools used, and how they are integrated into Sitecore. My goal with this presentation is to give you an overview of the system and its capabilities, so you will know where to start, where you can find things, and so you can make sense of the terminology used. Note that I'm going to talk about the Commerce Server product as it is now. I say this explicitly because a lot will change in the coming years. But if you want to start using Commerce Server now, you need to know about the tools that are available to you at this moment. In this presentation, I won't go too deeply into the integration of Commerce Server and Sitecore. I will show you some aspects of it, but this will be the subject of a blog post, which I will post later on my website. Last thing, this webinar will be recorded, and all attendees will receive a link of this recording. And I will also put the link to the recording on my website. Now, to start using Commerce Server, you need a development environment. The easiest way to create a development environment is by following the instructions on this URL. If you follow these instructions, you will have a fully working environment with Sitecore and Commerce Server 11 installed, including all the business tools you need and all authorizations set. You will also have a sample site available, so you can check out how Commerce Server should work and to get a basic idea of the API and how to interact with Sitecore. Now note that the sample site is not a production-ready site. It's a simple e-commerce site, but it showcases all the functionality that Commerce Server delivers you out of the box. In the demos, we will have a look at this sample site. So let's get on to the catalog system. Now the catalog system is where information on the products that you are selling in your store is stored. The catalog system is quite flexible. Some parts of it are predetermined, but for the rest, you have a lot of freedom of which information you store on products, categories, and catalogs. The building blocks of the catalog system are products, categories, and catalogs, and together they form a hierarchy, as you can see in this diagram. Products are aggregated in categories, and categories are aggregated in catalogs. Now we'll start by having a look at what a product is in the catalog system. Then we'll look at categories, and finally we'll look at catalogs. Let's start with the product. This is a product. It's a sofa. Now this sofa has properties such as seating height, length, width, the type of length of leg, and many other properties you would like to display on your site or need to inform the user about this for his order. Which properties a product has is something you can define in what is called a product definition. We'll have a look at a product definition in a moment. Now a product is always part of a category. It can be the root category, but it can also be a subcategory. A product can even be part of multiple categories at the same time. And you can also define a primary parent category for a product. Now what would you use the primary parent for? Well, basically you use it to indicate that it's the most important category to associate with this product. For instance, if you want to have a breadcrumb on your site to indicate the category paths, the user followed to get to the product, you use the primary parent category of a product in case you don't know how the user got to your product because they came to your site from a search engine, for instance. Now this is another product. It's a dining room table, and although it has many of the same properties as a sofa we saw earlier, such as height, width and length, it also misses properties the sofa had, such as the seating height and the type of fabric. Now this is where the concept of a product definition is important, because although we could try to create one big product definition containing all the properties of all the products we sell, it's much better to create separate product definition for each particular type of product. So in this case, we could have two product definitions, one for a sofa and one for a dining room table. Now the product definition is one of the building blocks of a product. Each product definition consists of properties that define a product. The properties and product definitions are something that are dependent on your particular situation, and so can be completely defined by you in Commerce Server. So a product is defined by its product definition. Another concept we have to talk about is variants. So let's get back to our sofa. This is our sofa in a nice beige color. And this is the same sofa, but now in gray. And this again is the same sofa, but now in green. Now this is what's called a variant in Commerce Server. It's the same product, but a property of the product is different. In this case, it's the color that's different. In this case, one property is different, but it could be more than one property that is different. Now a variant is always part of a product. So in a hierarchy, a variant falls under a product. A product doesn't need to have variants. In the product definition, define which properties are part of the variant, but that could also be zero properties. And then a product doesn't have variants. Now we've talked about products, about variants, and how they relate to each other. You already know that products are aggregated in categories. We're now going to talk about another concept that helps to describe the catalog, and that is relationships. Using relationships, or associations as it's called in Sitecore Commerce Server, you can describe the connections of one product with other products in the catalog. This is a really flexible concept, as you can imagine, and you can define all kinds of relationships between your products in this way. For instance, you can use it to define an alternative to a product. In this case, a different sofa with almost the same style. Or you can use it to create a relationship to another product in the same series. Or you can use it to show the customer products that go nicely with the product you're showing. In this case, pillows that are made of the same fabric as the sofa. Using relationships, you can describe all the connections that one product has with other products in the same catalog. But also, you can also make relationships to products in another catalog. So if your spare parts are in a different catalog from your assembled products, you can still define a relationship between the assembled products in one catalog and its spare parts in the spare part catalog. We now have all the building blocks for a product. We have the properties, we have a product definition, we have variants, and we have relationships. Next, we're going to talk about categories. Categories let you group products or subcategories together in your catalog and provide more control over your properties, such as price. You can set a pricing rule for one category without setting them for other categories. Each category has at least one parent category, but a category can also have multiple parent categories. You define which is the default parent category for each category. Now, like products, categories have a definition called a category definition. And like products, a category definition can have properties that you define. There are a couple of basic properties every category has to have. Each category has a category name. This is a unique identifier for the category. And every category can have a display name. One moment. Which is culture specific. A category can have a list price. This property is optional and can be used to give all the products in a category the same price. You can specify for each category whether it is searchable, and the Commerce Server API uses this property to define whether it will search the category. And finally, every category has this description, which is also culture specific. Each category can have a number of custom properties that you can define. Which properties are available depends on the definition of the category. And you can define different category definition depending on your needs. Now, a category contains products. Now, note that products can be at any level in the category tree. So they don't have to be only at the bottom of the category tree. They can be at any level. Finally, similar to products, a category can have relationships with other categories. So now we know about products and categories. And finally, we're going to look at catalogs, the thing that aggregates our products and categories. Now, catalogs come in two varieties, base catalogs and virtual catalogs. First, we're going to have a look at the base catalog. You are always going to need at least one base catalog. A base catalog contains categories and products. It's called a base catalog because other catalogs can be based on this catalog. The catalog itself has meta information. For instance, it has a name, which is a unique identifier in the catalog system, and it has a display name, which is culture specific. It can also have a start and end date, so you can have a catalog that's only valid for a certain period of time. A catalog has a currency, and each catalog can have only one currency. And the catalog also has a weight measure, for instance, kilograms or pounds. Each product can have a weight associated with it, and this weight can be used to determine the shipping cost of an order. As with all items in the catalog, you can extend the catalog information with your own custom properties. Now, you need at least one base catalog to get started, but you can have as many base catalogs as you want. The second type of catalog is the virtual catalog, or custom catalog as it's called in Sitecore. A virtual catalog does not have products of its own, but rather gets its products from a base catalog or from another virtual catalog. You define rules to indicate which products or category of products should be included in the virtual catalog. The rules you define are inclusion and exclusion rules. So if you want all of the categories from a base catalog to be included in the virtual catalog, except for some specific categories, you define a rule that says to include all of the categories of a base catalog, and you define a second rule to exclude certain categories from the base catalog. And you can also add individual products if you want. Note that you can include products from multiple catalogs, either base or virtual. This way you can be very flexible with your virtual catalogs. We've talked about inclusion-exclusion rules. You can also apply pricing rules to a virtual catalog to change the pricing automatically. You apply a pricing rule to a set of products and you define whether to add or subtract a percentage or a fixed amount. This way you can create, for instance, a sale catalog with items that are for sale. Also note that the currency of a virtual catalog can be different from the base catalog. That doesn't mean that Commerce Server automatically applies currency conversion rules to the virtual catalog. You will have to do that yourself, for instance using a pricing rule. Another concept you need to be aware of is materialization. You can materialize a virtual catalog, which means that at the database level, the catalog will be stored just like a base catalog. Whether or not to materialize a virtual catalog has to do with performance. if you have a catalog with a large number of products, you should materialize a catalog as it has much lower overhead than a purely virtual catalog. There's another neat feature of virtual catalogs, and that is that you can change the content of properties of the products in the virtual catalog. So they are different from the base catalog. We've talked about pricing rules, so of course the price can be different, but all other product properties, except the properties that identify the product, such as a product ID, can be changed to be different from the base catalog. But you can only do this with pure virtual catalogs. When you materialize a catalog, you can no longer change its content. Now note that content that you have already changed will remain changed once you materialize it. So a workflow could be to create a virtual catalog, change the content in the virtual catalog that needs to be specific to that catalog, and then materialize it. That way you get the speed of a materialized catalog with the flexibility of a purely virtual catalog. These are the two types of catalog we have in Commerce Server. And remember that you always need a base catalog. Next thing we're going to talk about is a catalog set. A catalog set or catalog group is a set of catalogs that you assign to a group of customers. Now in a B2B scenario, you can use this to give customers only access to the catalogs, for instance, they have a sales agreement for. You can create static or dynamic catalog sets. In a static catalog set, you define which catalogs belong to the set once, and that's it. In a dynamic catalog set, catalogs are automatically added or removed based on the property of the catalog. So if you have a highly dynamic catalog environment, the dynamic catalog set may be the best option. There's still one thing missing from the description of a catalog, and that is whether a product or variant is in stock. Now, information about the stock level is contained in an inventory catalog. The inventory catalog contains information on the stock of the products in your catalogs. An inventory catalog can contain multiple catalogs, but each catalog can only be attached to one virtual catalog. To one inventory catalog. A virtual catalog always takes its inventory from the associated base catalog. So a virtual catalog cannot have its own inventory. In an inventory catalog, it defines things like the on-hand quantity, the restock quantity, and whether a product is back-orderable or pre-orderable. Now, as with all things in the catalog system, you can extend the inventory catalog with your own properties. We have now seen all the parts of the catalog system. With this information, we can go and define our catalog. Next, we'll have a quick look at the architecture of the catalog system. Now, the architecture of the catalog system is actually quite simple. It consists of an API and a database. The API talks directly to the database, but almost always through a stored procedure. The database contains a number of tables with meta information and a number of tables for each catalog. Now, there are a large number of stored procedures that facilitate the activities of the API. There's also a web service that external systems can use to talk to Commerce Server. The Commerce tools use the web services to talk to the catalog API, and so does, for instance, the BizTalk adapter, which we'll see later. Now, you can create your own tools that use the web services, but note that the performance of the web services is much lower than a native API. So it's best suited for tools that do not expect really high performance. Sitecore communicates with the API using Commerce Connect. Now, if you want to get a better understanding of how the catalog system actually works, I recommend you use SQL Server Manager to open the catalog database and have a look at the different tables. It's really not that complicated. It's so simple actually that you might get the idea that you could insert product and category information directly into SQL. I would warn against that, as there are a number of business rules that you need to be aware of. It's much easier, better, and future-proof to use the Commerce Server tools to manipulate your catalogs. So let's have a look which tools Commerce Server gives you to create, update, and access the catalog. There are 4 tools you can use to work with the catalog system. And later in the demonstration, we'll have a quick look at some of these tools. First, we have the Catalog and Inventory Schema Manager, which is used to create a schema for the product catalog and for the inventory catalog. Now here you define the properties that you can use for your category and product definitions, and for your catalog and inventory catalog. And you define your product and category definitions. The Catalog and Inventory Schema Manager is usually the first tool you use when you start creating a catalog. Now, after you have created all the properties and definition, you use the Catalog Manager to create, update, and delete catalogs, categories, and products. This is where you can edit all aspects of your catalog and where you define the structure of your catalog. Now, the Catalog Manager is a great tool to use if you are starting from scratch. But in an enterprise environment, you probably already have a system where information on products is stored. This could be an ERP system or a product information manager, for instance. In that case, BizTalk is the ideal tool to connect Commerce Server to the system. You can use the BizTalk adapter to import and export catalog data and your inventory. Using BizTalk, it's also quite easy to combine data from multiple sources into one catalog for Commerce Server. For instance, your ERP may have information on delivery times and pricing, while your product information manager has content approved by marketing for the website. Then you can use BizTalk to combine this information and send it to the catalog system. The BizTalk adapter uses the web services to connect to the Commerce Server API. Now the final tools we have available are command line tools. The first tool is Export Catalog, and is used to export one or more catalogs to a file in XML format. As you can see, it has a number of options, so you can tweak which catalogs to export, and within that catalog which products or categories to export, and which properties to export of those products and categories. Export Catalog is also a great tool to create a backup of your catalog. If you can export a catalog, you also need a tool to import a catalog, of course. That tool is called Import Catalog, and as you can see, it also has a number of options. Note that with both tools, you can either use the API to import or export a catalog, or you can use the web services. If you want to use the first option, so use the API, you need to be in a computer where Commerce Server is installed, which in a production environment is not always possible. In that case, you can also use the web services. Note that you only import and export product catalogs files with these tools. You cannot import or export inventory catalog files. Now there are a number of other command line tools. We have catalog cleanup.vbs, which is a VB script that deletes temporary tables from the catalog system. The catalog system uses temporary tables to store search result or the result of a category query. Now for performance reasons, it can be necessary to clean up those tables. Next we have catalog cycle cop, which you can use to check for cyclical references in a catalog. You can get these cyclical references because a category can be the child of multiple parent categories. If you are not careful about constructing your category structure, you could end up with a loop in your category structure. And well, this tool will help you find these loops. Next we have create catalog authorization store.exe. This tool updates the catalog authorization policies. Now the catalog authorization policies contains definitions for catalogs, properties and languages used in the catalog. The authorization policy is used by the catalog web servers, and the authorization system in Commerce Server is a subject in itself. So I will not go into it in this presentation, but I will go into this in one of the blog posts on my site. And the last tool is the inventory consistency checker, which, as its name implies, checks the inventory for consistency. Now, after all this theory, it's time for a demonstration. So now I'm going to move to my virtual machine and show you what it's like to work with Commerce Server and Sitecore. Now first let me show you what you get when you install the development environment. So when you first install a development environment, this is what you get. This is the sample site, which is based on the AdventureWorks catalog, which has some products to do with outdoor sports. Now, as you can see, we have some featured products here and a carousel. This content you can, of course, edit using Sitecore. And you can browse to some categories. For instance, go to the backpacks and have a look what's available there. This is a category. You can filter a category using facets, and you can have a look at the details of the product here, and you can select different colors if it's available in different colors, and you can add a product to your cart and order it. Now today we're only going to look at the catalog system. So let's have a look how we can define a new product. Let's assume we're going to we want to start selling socks on our website, and socks have a property. They're made from a specific material, for instance, cotton or wool. So let's say let's have a look at the Commerce Server Catalog and Inventory Schema Manager. Because at the moment we don't have a property where you can define which type of fabric the sock is made of. So we want to define a new property. So we go to the property definitions and we'll say create a new property. Now a property can have a specific type, for instance number, decimal, boolean, multiple choice. Now in this case we want to limit the number of choices for the people who enter the products, so we're going to select a multiple choice field. So we'll enter the property name, which is let's call it material. It's not multilingual. We'll want to display it on site, and we want it to be specification searchable. In the display names tab, you can define what is displayed to the user. For instance, in the catalog manager, but also in other other tools. In this case, I will enter material for all the languages, even Japanese. And for all other languages, we also will call it material. And we're creating a multiple choice field. Of course, we need to define which choices are available. So at the moment, we'll have two options available. We'll have cotton and we will have wool. Oh, let me. So now we have a new property called material. Now for a sock we need to define a new product definition, because we have some product definitions here, for instance for backpack and boots and crampon and harnesses, but we don't have a product definition for sock. And as we saw, the socks have a specific property, which is the fabric. So we're going to create a new product definition. Create the definition. We'll give it a name, sock, and we'll give it a description, also sock. Now here you can see the assigned product properties, and below that you will see the assigned variant properties. So if a product doesn't have variants, you're not going to assign a variant property. But if you want variants, for instance, in case of socks, the size is a variant, we'll add that as the variant properties. Now we're going to also want some images associated with this product, so we'll add some images. And we want the material to be part of this the product definition. We have some default product properties, description, on sale, and rating, which are part of all the products in our catalog. So now we can save the product definition, and we'll have a look at so now we're finished creating a product definition. When we can go to the catalog manager, which is another one of the business tools of Commerce Server, to actually add some products to our catalog. Now this is the catalog manager. This is where you define your catalog. Later we'll see that you can also do this directly in Sitecore, and we'll also see an example of the interaction with the Sitecore products. So for instance, now I want to add a new sock, and I'll put it under the supplies category. So I'll check supplies. I say, okay, create a new product. I have to specify the definition, the product definition type. So I'll specify sock. Okay. Yeah, I just created a new property called material, and the catalog manager doesn't know yet about this property, so I will first have to refresh it. So I'll do a refresh first. Okay, now it should know about the property again. I'll go back to my category. I create a new product, and using the product wizard I will create a new sock. I'll give it a unique identifier. I'll give it a display name, cotton sock. I'll give it the list price, in this case €12 or dollars, and I'll give it this description, which is also cotton sock. Next I can define some custom properties. For instance, if it's on sale. No, it's not on sale yet. Images I can edit using Sitecore, and I have to give it a material. So in this case it's cotton socks, so I'll select cotton. Here I can define the category that the product is associated with. Now as you can see, I can define a primary category. I'll add it to supplies, but I can also add additional categories if I want. Next, product relationships. So we talk about the relationships, and this I can use this screen to add certain relationships to other products. For instance, if I want I can use this to look up another product. For instance, I'll select a for instance, this product, the Data First Aid Kit, and then I can define a relationship to that product by entering a relationship name in this box. For instance, this is I'll call this relationship name goes nicely with. So now I have defined a relationship which is called goes nicely with to a Data First Aid Kit. Now I can define many relationships to other products, for instance, for spare products or alternative products. So now I've defined my first product. I can create it. And now I can see it here in the catalog manager. Now I have defined a product, but I didn't define its variance yet. So if I open the product again, you can see all the properties I entered, the custom properties, and this is where I define my variance. So a sock comes in different sizes, so I need to add my variance. Now every variant has its own ID. For instance, in this case, I will call it AWS201-1. It has a display name, size 41 to 43. It has a different price, and it can have a size, because that's the property I assigned to the variant properties. Now I can add another one, AWS201.2, which is size 44 until 46, and that can have a different price or the same price if I want. And here I can define the price. Now there's one other thing I need to set up, and that's my inventory, because without inventory I cannot sell it. So if I have a look here at the variant inventory properties, I can see I have to set up some fields of that, otherwise the catalog manager doesn't allow me to save it. So I need to specify how many products are available. I have 50 of these and 40 of these. And I need to specify a stock out threshold, which is an indication when a product is no longer in stock. Or so I'll put it at 1. And now I can save the product. So now I've created a cotton sock. Let's see how this ends up in Sitecore. Because in Sitecore, if you open the content editor, you will see, once you've installed Sitecore Commerce, that you have a Sitecore Commerce. Wait, let me log in again. Oh. You have a Sitecore Commerce part in your content editor. As you can see, you have a catalog management, and there you will also find the catalog, in this case the AdventureWorks catalog, and you will find the same category structure as you saw in the catalog manager. So I can, the same as in my the catalog manager, I can go to supplies, and there my stock is not showing up yet, because I need to synchronize my Sitecore category structure with my Commerce Server catalog structure. So to do that, I go to Sitecore Commerce. The first thing I need to do is update the data templates, because I created a new definition for sock, and that needs to be imported into Sitecore. And then I can refresh the catalog cache. And if I do a refresh now of my content tree, I should see my cotton sock. So I have my cotton sock in my 2 variants, and I have this information now in Sitecore. Now I can also add an image now to the sock. No, I don't have an image of a sock available, but I'll add the image of a boot, which is close enough, I think. I will save it. So now I have an image of a boot associated with my sock. Now if I go to the web shop and I'll go to supplies, I should see my cotton sock available. As you can see here. So this is my cotton sock. Now the nice thing is that there's a really deep integration of Sitecore and Commerce Server. For instance, for web editors or marketeers, it's really easy now to change the description of the product. Because, well, I entered a really simple description, but yeah, if I want to, if I'm the web editor for this site and I want to put a little bit more information there, I can just use the page editor to add information. So, for instance, I don't want to but this is a really great pair of socks. And once I save this information and I go back to Sitecore, you will see that it's also represented in Sitecore, which, well, of course it's normal. But if you go back to the catalog manager and we'll have a look at this cotton sock, you will see it's also synchronized back here. So this will always stay in sync. If you have a look at the images, the images are stored as GUIDs, which represents the image in the media library. So this is how you create a product definition, create a product, add it to a category, edit the information either in the page editor or in the catalog manager or in the Sitecore content editor. Let's have a look now at how you create a virtual catalog, because it's quite something you might want to do. It's quite easy. You just say create a new virtual catalog. Now you give the catalog a name. For instance, you want to start a specialty shop specializing in backpacks, called Backpacks and Backpacks. Yeah. As I told you in the presentation, you can have a start date for the catalog and an end date. Well, this start date and end date is okay for me. You can specify currency. You can specify a weight measure. For instance, all my products are in kilograms. And you can specify whether to materialize or not. In this case, I won't materialize it. Every catalog can have some custom properties. Well, I don't have any custom properties at the moment. And you can specify which languages are available. For instance, I have this catalog is in English, but I can also add more languages if necessary. So now I'm creating my virtual catalog. And now I need to add some products to it. That's quite easy to do. You just go to a base catalog, which in this case is my AdventureWorks catalog. And for instance, I want to add my backpacks, all my backpacks to the virtual catalogs. So I say add to virtual catalog, select which virtual catalog, backpacks, and now it should be added. Now it says this catalog requires a rebuild. Do you want to rebuild now? Yes. And if I do a refresh, then my backpacks are here. So now they're part of the virtual catalogs. Now, as I told you in the demonstration, you can edit the properties of a virtual catalog, and they can be different from the base catalog. Let's try that with, for instance, a backpack. If I look in the base catalog, this university backpack has a brand which is called Contoso. Now, for instance, if I go to my virtual catalog, I edit my product, and I'm going to give it a different brand. I'm going to give it, it's from Nike now. I'll save and close it. Now, if I go back to my base catalog, and have a look at the brand, it's still Contoso. So my content for my virtual catalog can be different from the content for my base catalog. How do you import the new catalog into Sitecore? It's quite easy. You go to Catalogs, you select Backpacks, which is my catalog. I'll save it. And after a refresh, it should be here, but it's not. And now it is. So I needed to refresh my catalog cache. So as you can see, the brand here is also Nike instead of the Contoso, which it was in my my base catalog. So different properties can have different values in virtual catalogs from the base catalog, which is quite an interesting concept. That's it for my demonstration. That's it for me. You can find more information on Commerce Server on my website, commerceservertips.com. In the next month, I'm going to fill it with information on Commerce Server and Sitecore. And the recording of this presentation will also be posted on this site. I would like to thank the people of Sitecore Benelux for hosting this webinar, especially Frank, Bas, and Jeroen for helping to organize and promote this webinar. You can follow me on Twitter, or you can send me an email if you want, erwinwerkman@avivasolutions.nl. And you can also find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @erwinwerkman. So if you have any questions, please type them in the question box and I will try to answer them. And I don't see the question box at the moment, but okay, I see that there are no questions. I can imagine it's a lot of information to process. So if you have any questions later, send me an email and I will try to answer it as well as I can. That's it for me. Thank you for attending this webinar. As said, this webinar is part of a series of 4. So in the coming months, I will be releasing other parts of this series. And thank you very much, and have a nice day.